The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 867. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. I would love your support if you can pre-order a copy of my upcoming book, The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within. Pre-order your copy on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Walmart, and all other book retailers. You will also receive bonus gifts for pre-ordering. Just send your proof of purchase to info@shinayapchan.com to receive your free gifts. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap-Chan, and today I have an amazing lady on the show today. She is an author, a producer, and also the founder of GirlTalkHQ, and I'm really excited to have her on to share her story with us on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Asha Dahya. Asha, first off, happy AAPI Heritage Month. How are you doing today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sheena, and happy AAPI Heritage Month to you and all your listeners. Well, it's really wonderful to be here. In terms of who I am and what I do, I'm a TV and documentary producer. I'm a TEDx speaker. I'm the author of a book called Today's Wonder Women, Everyday Superheroes Who Are Changing the World, people like yourself, Sheena. And I'm also the founder of a daily feminist blog site called GirlTalkHQ.com. And of course, I can't forget to mention I am a mom of two.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I love Girl Talk HQ, which is really great. Having more female empowerment, representation, media, it's so important, especially this month for AAPI Heritage Month. So thank you so much. And Asha, what's your cultural background?
My heritage is Indian. I was born in the UK, raised in Australia, and now I live in Los Angeles. And I've always felt like I don't 100% fit in anywhere. Maybe you and other listeners can identify with that. And I think I've spent my whole life straddling multiple cultures, whether I'm Indian. I was also raised in a evangelical Christian home. So I always, was struggling. Who am I? Am I Indian? Am I Christian? Am I Australian? And now I'm American, and maybe I'm all of the things. And, who knows, depending on the day and my mood.
I love that. And for sure, there's one thing we know, you're a human being.
Yes. Thank you for bringing it back to that. I'm a whole complex human being.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And Asha, what's your favorite self-confidence quote?
I recently heard actress Cheryl Lee Ralph, who is starring on Abbott Elementary. If anyone hasn't seen it, please watch it. It is a brilliant, brilliant show. And she was are you a fan?
I love that show.
It's so great. It really is so great. And maybe having kids in school right now, I can identify with the whole scenario. But Cheryl Lee Ralph, she won an Emmy. She's a brilliant, brilliant actress. And at a recent awards show, she was holding her award and she was telling the audience and people watching that it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of you. What matters is what you think of yourself. Do you like yourself? At the end of the day, you have to go home, you have to go to sleep, and you have to think about whether you like yourself. And I think that was really brilliant because she is an older woman and she kind of is having her day in the spotlight at an age when we typically ignore women. We kind of put them out to pasture, and especially women of color. I think it's really brilliant to see people like her, Michelle Yeoh, really standing up, getting their awards and getting the accolades that they deserve, and also creating that representation. So it really does come back to who are we? Do we like ourselves regardless of what the world thinks? So that's what I am now using as my daily mantra.
I love that. And especially the older we get, right? I mean, age is a huge thing for women. Hit a certain, point where we can't do anything, but age is nothing but a number, and we can go out there and make things happen. Like a couple months ago, I shared something on LinkedIn, and it was basically a photo of a tattoo artist in the Philippines, and she's 106, and it was on Vogue's Philippines, and it was the most beautiful cover ever because it just showed raw beauty, raw strength of this woman who's been tattooing for over, for a long time. She's the oldest tattoo artist in the Philippines. And she's the oldest model, Vogue model, in a cover. So anything is trustable. So I love that message and that quote that you mentioned. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
Well, this one's been a journey, and it still is an ongoing journey. I will definitely say that. But I think following on from Cheryl Lee Ralph's quote, being able to being able to not only love, but like yourself. I think those are two different things. And, being able to love and like yourself, your decisions and your experiences, regardless of what other people think. And it's the warts and all, the good and the bad, everything that makes you you. Are you happy that you are doing the best thing for you instead of what others want to see from you? And so that's how I've been able to find my own self-confidence, learning not to live to please others and to honor my own ambitions and desires and my own path. I think that has been a huge confidence builder because I spent so much time so lost and not understanding or trying to figure out where I fit in. Like I mentioned, I'm straddling so many different cultures that really played a role in me losing confidence. And so it's really started about looking within for myself and starting everything from there and building my confidence and self-esteem and knowing that I don't have to compare myself with anyone else.
I love that. And of course, it starts with ourselves, right? But growing up in Asian culture, we've been programmed to always please others, serve others. And then we forget the most important person in the world, which is ourselves. So really, we have to start with ourselves. And that's when we can, start serving others if we want to, right? It really has to start with loving ourselves, being okay with who we are, loving ourselves unconditionally so we can show up as our best self. So I really love that definition. And Asha, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence? I know you mentioned a little bit about it, but, just maybe, if there was anything else that you dealt with growing up or if you had any confidence issues.
Yeah, 100%. I had confidence issues. And I think I was constantly looking for approval from relationships, from parents, from colleagues, from the media and TV industry that I worked in. It's very visually driven. And so I felt like I had to look a certain way and keep up with certain trends, and it's just so unsustainable. And then also now, it's a little bit of keeping up with how do I gain more followers and more likes and, all subscriptions, all these kind of things can really wreak havoc on our self-confidence. And it definitely does on me from time to time. And that's why you see a lot of people take social media breaks. And I do that. I'm very strict with myself. After a certain time of day, I'm like, that's it, phone down, just focusing on my kids. I just want to eat good food and, look at nature and not look at what's happening online. And so I'm definitely still working to undo a lot of that, but it makes me realize how lost I was for so long because I didn't know what was my anchor, what is my center, what am I going after, who do I need to look to find that approval? And ultimately it was always going to be me, regardless of what other people think. And so it's been a long journey and it's still ongoing because it's something that you have to intentionally do every day. Wake up and think, okay, I am a confident, worthy, ambitious, talented human being, worthy of doing all these great things, but it's going to take intention to get there each day.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think we're all guilty of that. Even me, of course, I have the tools that I could use to work on my self-confidence. But, there's days where we feel like, well, why does so-and-so have more followers than me? Why is so-and-so on Forbes and I'm not, right? The compare game is strong. And of course, it's also culture. But I love that you mentioned that I am an ambitious woman because sometimes that word ambitious for a woman is always considered as a negative thing when really it shouldn't. And the biggest culprits sometimes are women, right? We look down on each other and we say, oh, well, you're too ambitious. But men are ambitious, but they're called confident. So why can't women? And so I love that you mentioned that so we can start normalizing that and we can start making the changes that we want to see. And, what was that aha moment in your life that made you, start doing the work that you're doing? You have your own feminist blog, and that's a lot of work. Okay, what was that aha moment that gave you the confidence to just go out there and make it happen?
Yeah, well, I think there were a couple of things. So my aha moment was when I found my true calling and really learned to tap into and listen to my intuition. That's when I stopped being jealous of other people and realized that, oh, I've got a path and this is going to help keep me going. And I stopped the comparisons, and even imposter syndrome was diminished a little bit. But all of that came about because when I was 29, I went through a divorce. I was married for the first time at 24, went through a divorce at 29, and that really shook my foundations. I thought that this was going to be a forever thing, and I had plans to work in TV as a TV host, and I wanted to do other media things. And then all of that kind of fell apart because when your home life and your personal life is kind of all over the place, your career and trajectory, well, at least mine, is going to suffer in some way because they kind of interact with each other. And so that was a turning point for me where I had to figure out, okay, who am I? Where am I going? What do I want to do? What do I want to put out there in the world? How do I want to show up in the world? And so from there, I started Girl Talk HQ as a way to connect with other women, girls, people who just wanted to share their stories just like I did. I want to connect with people who had been through the difficult stuff and had ambitions and wanted to be creative and be in the world and show up as their authentic self. So going through a divorce, starting Girl Talk HQ, and from that blog, it just opened up a whole world of different things for me. And that made me realize, oh, I have a voice. I have a mission and a purpose. And that kind of really started me on a trajectory of where I am today. But again, it's an ongoing journey. I have to remember like what I've been through, who I am, and what I'm capable of. I think, like you said, we have these, voices that tell us we can't be ambitious. We shouldn't be proud of our talents and skills and all the things that we've done, but we should, because that's really going to help us on a daily basis get to the next level.
I love that. And I know sometimes we feel like we have to be defined by the relationships we have, the merit, the statuses, especially in Asian culture. It's like, if you're not married, you're an outcast. You're an old maid at 25. And I know in Indian culture too, like getting married is a huge thing. I mean, another season of Indian matchmaking just came out, right? Because that's a huge hit. So when we learn to separate from that and really figure out who we are and what we're supposed to do, then everything happens. Like you creating Girl Talk HQ. And because of that realization, what's your life been like now?
Well, it's not perfect, but it's definitely more clear. At times I definitely feel more peaceful because I finally know what my path is, instead of constantly thinking that, what are others doing? How did that person get there? And how do I do that? Oh, I have to copy them because that's going to make me feel great and successful and happy and considered worthy. But that's, I have to constantly go, okay, Asha, focus. And my other realization is that I am the one to determine my worth, not others. And that my worth is not based on how many rules I follow, how much money I make, or how successful or pretty I am. And, a lot of those stem from my upbringing and the culture and the surroundings I had. Like you mentioned the show Indian Matchmaking, I think the idea of that stability and having a partner and a home and kids, all those markers of what we think is quote unquote successful, it's a lot of pressure. And, going through a divorce, I felt so much shame, especially for my parents. I thought they would be ashamed of me, and they were not at all. They were so lovely and supportive, and that got me through a lot. But now I look at my cousins and, my relatives are all the same generation as me. And, there are other divorces. There are people who choose not to have kids or not get married. There are people who live with their partners before getting married, which is, very taboo back in the day. And also marrying outside of the Indian culture. I'm not married to an Indian. A lot of my cousins and relatives are not. And so it's becoming more normalized, and the less shame we feel about it and the more we are open and embrace each other's differences, I think that also helps us embrace each other and not feel that pressure of keeping up with all these rules and keeping up with the Joneses or keeping up with the Singhs, maybe, if I'm going to put an Indian spin on that.
I love that. I think we need a show called Keeping Up with the Singhs. That's a great idea.
Oh my gosh, there are the glitz and glamour in some of the Indian families, like the Bollywood world, and oh my gosh, I feel it would put the Kardashians to shame. There is like so much of that culture, and people love it, and I personally don't, but it would be an interesting take for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
Follow Cheryl Lee Ralph. She is brilliant. She has some really, really great quotes. But in all seriousness, I really have found a lot of strength and comfort and encouragement following women of color, and especially women of color who are all, in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, who have overcome numerous barriers. There's so much wisdom that comes with age. And I really want to hear from my elders and the women who have come before me. They show us what is possible if we don't give up on ourselves and our dreams. And I mentioned Michelle Yeoh. It's like, their age is just a number. You should not put limits or barriers on yourself, even if other people are. Like, keep going and honor the intentions and the ambitions that you have. And so find the role models within your community and people that look like you and that you can model yourselves after, because now we have so many of them out there. Whereas, back in the day before social media, we didn't. So that's the advice that I would give. Find people that you admire and that have a lot of wisdom and experience to share.
I love that. That's great advice. And of course, listening to other women's stories is powerful. Like last week, I watched Michelle Obama's special on Netflix. Oprah was the one interviewing her, and it just made me see what was possible, right? Especially like I have a book coming out in a couple of weeks, seeing that and realizing this is where it could go, right? Like that's how far it could go. I could have a sold out show on a Tuesday night in LA and then there's other people who'll say, well, that's Michelle Obama and Oprah. I'm like, yes, they're famous. Yes, they have a followers. They started at the bottom. They still went through sexism, racism, gaslighting, like Oprah was, sexually abused. So they all have a history and they fought their way to get to the top. So just because they're famous now, they had to start somewhere, like you mentioned. So being able to see that just gave me a whole new outlook on like what else could happen for me if and that's why representation is so important, because it just shows us what's possible. So I love that advice that you mentioned. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit about you and what you do, check out Girl Talk HQ. Is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Yeah, you can find Girl Talk HQ on Instagram and Twitter, just at Girl Talk HQ, and of course, girltalkhq.com. You can connect with me, AshaDahya.com. I'm also on the Insta and Twitter at Asha Dahya, and I love to hear your stories and reach out and connect with me. And yeah, I'm here to hear your stories and amplify the work that you all do. So, and you as well, Sheena. I love amplifying your words and your work on Girl Talk HQ. It's an honor.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Asha, you can also head on over to the taoofselfconfidence.com and search for Asha's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I just really want to thank Asha today for taking the time to share her story, her wisdom on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Asha.
Thank you, Sheena, and best of luck with your book. I can't wait to support you and hear more about what you're doing. And I know you're just going to be great, and I'll be cheering you on every step of the way.
Aw, thank you. I know it's coming so soon. It's so crazy. Lots of feelings happening. I'm just grateful for this opportunity and really, just have something that can have Asian women be seen as leaders.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
Yeah, this is the start of something amazing. So thank you so much. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.